SML TV cameras don't roll. Members of the press, wherever you're watching me from right now, don't roll just yet. I'm just waiting for something. That's what Given Lubinda said during the Tonse Alliance press briefing earlier today. And honestly, it behooves me. But before I get into that, what I'd like for you to do, wherever you are, please jump on this live, and if you can sling the live around, share it with people that you think, hey, Bo, thank you so much. Share it with people that you think would be, hey, Stacey B, I see you. Joseph Chishimba. And who's that? ZM, Mutale ZM. How are you? Loud and clear. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Stacey B. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to spend a few moments with me. And I often say to you that one of the roles that I feel that I play, of course, I'm just a tiny piece in a gigantic puzzle. Oftentimes I hear people say, but why must you talk? Well, because I've got an audience and I've got an opinion. I have a platform and I want to share what I feel and sprinkle some SML TV dust on current affairs. So it's fine to do that. I am totally fine to come to you and share with you my thoughts. So please share this live and see if we can get, some creative juices flowing and some opinions thrown up in the air. Guys, I often say to you, a rumor unchallenged becomes fact. And the more you hear something, if you hear something over and over and over again, the more you hear a lie, the easier it is to believe it. You know who said that? Michael Jackson said that once, many years ago. He said that the more you hear a lie, the more you begin to believe it. And one of the reasons we're here is to sort of push back and rebut. Okay, now keep in mind, there's no such thing as a perfect administration. There never was, and there never will. There are no perfect people, only perfect intentions. Okay, let's be clear about that. So let's get into it real quick. Earlier today, Given Lubinda, he's the acting president of this thing called the Grand Theft Tonse, the Grand Auto, not the Grand Auto, the Grand Wizard of the Tonse Alliance. It's grand something, because they throw so many different phrases around, you lose track. I thought it was called the Tonse Alliance. Now they're adding words to it, and because they do that, you sort of get lost in the woods. They're using phrases like the Grand Tonse Alliance. Grand? What's grand about the Tonse Alliance? If you look at the caliber, if you look at the girth of political parties that are aligned, that are associated with this Tonse Alliance. I mean, there are parties there called the UBZ party. Some guy, I don't know who the heck he came, I don't know who the hell he is. He just stood up and said, I am so-and-so, and I represent the UBZ party. The United for a Better Zambia party. A party I have never heard of in my entire life. And what Tonse Alliance is, guys, let's be clear. Tonse Alliance is an amalgamation of a billion little tiny pieces attached to the PF. That's all it is. It's a lot of one-man shows, one-name shows that we've never heard of, parties that we have never heard of, parties that we are not privy to, attached to this big, gigantic thing called the PF. So basically, there is no Tonse Alliance. It's simply PF reloaded. aka NPF, the Notorious Patriotic Front. Under the guise, under the camouflage, under the false apparition of an alliance. It's all a smokescreen. But, you know, we see right through them, and it is self-evident that the PF are simply trying to camouflage themselves by claiming that they are associated with other big parties, therefore creating some type of political conglomerate. There is no such thing as a political conglomerate in this instance. It's just PF with a group of small parties such as the UBZ party. What is it called? It's called the United for a Better Zambia Party. Have you ever heard of that? Never. And you'll probably never hear about them ever again. So, you know, the PF under Given Lubinda held a press conference today, and I noted with great humor, and this speaks to the unpreparedness of the PF. This speaks to the lack of preparation on the part of Given Lubinda and his cohorts. He says at the beginning of the press conference, first of all, they pray, which I find strange. I find it utterly strange that they pray, they seek the face of God, they use the name of God, they even say at the conclusion of the prayer, in the name of Jesus. And then when the moment they say amen, the knives come out and they start slashing. It's the most incredible thing. It's the weirdest, morbid thing I've ever seen. Okay? My admonition to the PF is don't pray before you hold those demonic press conferences. Don't do that. That is a slap in the face of Christianity. I want you to know. That is a slap in the face against the canon of Scripture. Don't do that. You are taking the Lord's name in vain when you pray, and then at the conclusion of the prayer, you say amen, and then you pull out the daggers and you start slashing, and there's blood everywhere. That is an abomination. Blasphemy is what that is. Or as Jimmy Swaggart used to say, blasphemy. It's total blasphemy. Right, so, you know, they pray, and then Given Lubinda sits there and he says, my request. Now, I don't do a very good Given Lubinda. I try, but it doesn't come out right. Members of the press, because, you know, he's got this husky voice. Please let me ask you, don't roll the cameras. Nishakwama cameras, they're rolling. Don't roll the cameras. I'm just waiting for something. I'm thinking, what the hell, man? We've been sitting here waiting for you. Now you're telling us you're waiting for something? He sits there for 2.5 minutes waiting for something. And he's just looking around like he's lost or something, you know. So finally, they come up with this thing where they say, okay, in order to fill the time, let's start, you know, let people start introducing themselves. And then each person kept on saying, my name's are. My name's are. Let me teach you. There's no such thing as my name's are. It's my name is. A person only has one name. Okay? My name is Chitambala Chitika Subaka Fuimbi Mwansa Shimutea Mwewa. That's my name. You can't say just because there are several in there and you say my name's are. No, you only have one name. So please, Napapata, stop saying my name's are. It is my name is. My name is Chitambala Chitika Suba Kafuimbi Shimutea Mwansa Mwewa. That's my name. Okay? But these despots, they were just going off on a tangent. So they introduced themselves, and then Miles Sampa, this is what I found hilarious. Miles Sampa stands up, he introduces himself as a member of parliament for Matero, and then he goes on to say that he is the leader of the opposition in the House. Miles, wake up, man. And I was very sad that he didn't refer to himself as the former president of the PF faction. He should have said that. He should have stood up and said, my name is Mauzi Wadasampa. I'm a member of parliament from Atero. In my head, I am the leader of opposition in parliament, but I am also, it is important to note, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that I am the former president of the NPF faction. As you are aware, I was convinced by the late president to rejoin them. And therefore, here I am. He should have said that, but he left that out. You know, and boo-hoo on you, Miles Sampa. You missed a good opportunity to sort of cement your position in that political party. But instead, you put your tail between your legs, is what you did. Right, so, and then, you know, Given starts speaking. What I found amazing, and what I find curious about the PF when they hold press conferences, I want you to notice each one of them looks, their countenance, their visage, their faces, their expressions on their faces. They look like they've been baptized in lemon juice. Especially by Given Lubinda. By Given don't throw the cameras. I'm just waiting for something. Members of the press, let me begin. While Given Lubinda's facial expressions look like someone that is full of bitterness, anger, and political resentment. There is not one iota of leadership in him that exudes camaraderie, that exudes a mission to find some type of middle ground. Oh no, Given Lubinda is stuck in emotional political purgatory. The brother doesn't know what the hell's going on. He doesn't even know what's happening. To add insult to injury, those jokers, those one-man parties, people like Uyo Katwish, I don't know who the president of UBZ is, you know, the member of the Tonse Alliance, UBZ, United for Better Zambia. Each one of these jokers kept on referring to Given Lubinda as Your Excellency. Given by Excellency. Excellency elected by whom? You answer that one. When you refer to a Given Lubinda as Your Excellency, excellency of what? And elected by whom? But don't put the cart before the horse. Learn to walk before you run. John, but then that you have to learn how to walk before you run. Given me that excellence. But don't be foolish. Be real. This is real politics. It's not patty cake, baker man. Don't tiptoe through the tulips. Be real. And then Given goes on to start talking about, he starts espousing. He starts talking about, he even quoted Martin Luther King saying, the ultimate tragedy is when good people do nothing. PF, good people? PF, good people? What are you talking about? That's called an oxymoron. You're juxtaposed. You can't use PF and good people in the same sentence. Have you lost your cotton-picking, everlasting Georgia peach mind? Be real. Given starts waxing eloquent, quoting Martin Luther King, forgetting that when PF was in power, they paid Chilufya Tayali a certain amount of money to run a campaign that suggested that HH dubiously obtained land from the Hatembos. You remember that story? And Chilufya Tayali was running on the face of the earth, to and fro on the face of the earth like the devil, screaming up and down, I've got evidence. I've got evidence. Ningwata evidence. Na la milanga. Ati hakainde ichilema. Ariba land. The whole thing was a farce. The whole thing was a lark. It was a lie. At the behest of Chilufya Tayali, Tayali took that case to Anti-Corruption Commission. Through ACC, that case found itself in court. When Hakainde Hichilema was summoned at the court, the UPND supporters went there to offer their solidarity. What happened? December 23, December 23rd, 2020. What happened? My dear friend Nsama was shot and killed in the fracas. What was the fracas? The fracas was when the UPND supporters arrived there at the High Court to provide solidarity. The PF police showed up. The very first thing they did. Now, these were unarmed, unprovocable people. They didn't have any weapons. Nobody there had a weapon. The police simply descended and they started firing shots. In the fray, 2 people got killed. Nsama was shot in the chest, in the head, and another guy by the name of Kaunda. Chilufya Tayali set that incident in motion. In law, that's called but-for causation. But-for causation simply means the actions of someone at point A cause the results of something that happens at point B. Chilufya Tayali set in motion a series of events that ultimately led to the death of Nsama. Nsama died because of a lie that Chilufya Tayali created at the behest of the PF. The PF were so desperate to discredit and to destroy HH's political career that they hired surrogates like Chilufya Tayali to create this smokescreen. You remember Frank Tayali, the Minister of Transport today. Frank Tayali escaped. He literally squeezed through the crevice of life because a police officer pointed an AK-47 in his face, right up to the tip of his nose, almost shot him dead in the street. Lelo Bagiven Luwinda's quoting, "The ultimate tragedy is when good people do nothing." PF, good? That doesn't even make any sense. PF, good? Nsama is dead today, still remains dead. Chilufya Tayali is somewhere in Malaysia enjoying a free handout life. The people that signed for Chilufya's sureties each paid 50,000 kwacha. They each are 50,000 kwacha in the hole because they vouched for Chilufya Tayali. What is my point? My point is everything Given Luwinda said today was based on a lie. It's false. There is no nobility in the PF. Given Luwinda goes on to talk about ECL's legacy. Given Luwinda has the audacity to say, HH, point at what you have done, instead of just kwenyu. In the words of the late and former 6th President of the Republic of Zambia, development has no destination. Every president comes to the plate, does his thing, does his part. When his tenure is over, he steps aside, somebody else comes in, and they do their part. Given Luwinda seems to think that ECL was the only president in this country that did anything, whatever the hell that was. Given Luwinda thinks that ECL was the only president that ever did anything notable. Let me submit to you, every president from Vakaunda to the present have added a layer of brick to the foundation of this country named Zambia. Woo! Boy, that's God just dropped that in my spirit. Let me say it again. Every single president from KK to the present has laid a brick on the foundation of this nation named Zambia. So it is disingenuous for Given Lubinda to suggest that only ECL had built something. And it's self-evident. It's there. At the end of his tenure, whether it's in 2026 or 2031, because it is up to the Zambian people. The Zambian people will decide. When HH's time comes, he'll step aside. HH has been very clear about this, and this is why I find this so strange. PF guys, they always use this. No one stays there forever. You're preaching to the choir. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know? Guys, we are living in a democracy. This is not a totalitarian state. Zambia is not a monarchy. It doesn't have kings. It doesn't have emperors. We live in a dispensational democracy. Time, place, tenure. HH has been very clear about that. The Constitution is clear about that. There's no argument there. So don't be foolish when you say, it will come. There will be a time when HH will do his time. He'll step aside. Somebody else will move in. But the PF, they're just stuck in this law. You're a bunch of whiners is what you are. So here it is. Given Lubinda goes on to talk about Muumbu. Now, it's very important to understand Muumbu because Lubinda thinks he's a spin doctor. A spin doctor is someone that takes information and tries to manipulate it and present it in a different way to the public. That's a spin doctor. A spin doctor is someone who is a propagandist. These are people like Emmanuel Mwamba, Given Lubinda. Given Lubinda is an amateur propagandist. The master propagandist is Emmanuel Mwamba. That one is adept. Emmanuel Diplomat Mwamba. Very adept at the propaganda. Given is just trying to find his feet. Okay? But in the process of trying to find his feet, he fumbles. And like today, he fumbled when he referred to the Muumbu incident as a massacre. Guys, let's understand, and this is something that no one is talking about. I've taken note of the fact that no one's talking about this. You see, the atmosphere at these illegal mines is a very hostile atmosphere. These are kids that are drilled, they are indoctrinated into believing that the minerals in the ground belong to them, the black man. They are entitled to those minerals in the ground. They have been misled, miseducated, misinformed, indoctrinated into believing that everything in the ground, in it and on it, belongs to them, the black man. But they're misinformed. They don't know that there are laws that govern this country. There is a constitution that hovers over this nation. There are laws that those kids are completely unaware of. So when you've got 1,000 teenagers that are being indoctrinated and they are given machetes, because you remember the videos at Muumbu, many of you, tell me in the comments if any of you saw any of the Muumbu illegal miners wielding, you know the word wielding? Doing this with machetes. Pointing machetes at cameras and saying, tell me in the comments if any of you saw any footage remotely related to miners, illegal miners wielding machetes. Tell me if you saw that. Many young people in Muumbu were armed. And so when the police moved in to remove them, many of those kids attacked the police. Many of those kids pushed back. They resisted. They retaliated. These were armed people. Now, let's draw a distinction. When you have a group of unarmed people who are not provoking the situation, that is very different from the police arriving on the scene where young people are armed, they're agitated, and they are indoctrinated into believing that the police are there to take away their livelihoods, and so in their minds, they are defending what belongs to them. Gold doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the people of Zambia. And it is governed by laws. And if you want access to that gold, there is a procedure. You can't just wake up and say, I'm a Zambian, I'm black, I've got a pick, I've got a metal detector, I'm going to go in there and look for the gold. No. When you do that and then you arm these young people with machetes, and I've said it and I'll say it again, government needs to nip this in the bud. You know what that means? It means they need to contain this situation and contain it drastically, expeditiously, and conclusively. You cannot have illegal mining. If you allow illegal mining, these same kids who are carrying machetes today, because they have gold and they have access to money, what will follow is drug money and weaponry. Machine guns, automatic weapons, AK-47s. And if you leave it unattended, if you just turn a blind eye, one day you look back and you will have a militia on your hands that is fully funded because of gold, weaponized to the hilt because they'll have weapons. And if you send police there, they'll simply retaliate using firearms. What then happens? It becomes a war zone. Now, Given Lubinda knows, he knows that the government's effort to contain illegal mining, unfortunately, comes with collateral damage because a lot of those kids were armed. Okay? They retaliated. They resisted violently. The police responded. Unfortunately, 3 people got killed in the fracas. We know that. We know that 3 people got killed. But to suggest, to imply that the police woke up and they went there to massacre the people is misleading. It is politically irresponsible to use those words because what Given Lubinda is trying to do, he's trying to create an atmosphere of political angst. You know the word angst? Uncomfortability. He wants to drive a wedge between the people and authority. Rebellion against authority is the message that Given Lubinda is trying to preach. Understand that. And this is a man that was beaten by PF cadres. A man that took PF cadres. Now, guys, during the PF, and this is what I find so strange when Given Lubinda quotes Martin Luther King and he says, the tragedy is when good people do nothing. During the PF, the Minister of Justice was beaten by PF cadres. That is the level of lawlessness that we were experiencing in this country. That is the degradation we were enduring as a country. If the Minister of Justice can be beaten by mere cadres, who are you and I? What recourse do you and I have? Can PF cadres panya us? Can they spare us? Ukupanya muchisungu ni spare. The translation of that is, can they spare us? They beat Given Lubinda when he was the Minister of Justice. Bali bapumba amakadas. Can you and I survive? How? Where? So about Given Lubinda is not the right person to talk about, to begin to espouse the virtues of good living and above board politics. Because there was no such thing as above board politics in the PF. So don't lie to the Zambian people. And the Zambian people see right through you. Every single person in that room today, starting from this president of UBZ, United for Better Zambia, someone we've never heard of, this member of the Grand Tonse Alliance, Grand Theft Tonse Alliance. Everyone in there, from Miles Waria Sampa, who doesn't even know what the hell's going on. Miles didn't even know where he was. He's just sitting there looking lost. Every single person in there had this expression of disdain and looked like they were baptized in lemon juice and bitterness and resentment and anger and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, oh, it's just too much toxicity in this room. I mean, if I walked into that PF room, the toxicity in there would have been so thick, I would have been able to cut through it with a knife, mate. Do you know what I mean? All right. Thought I'd share that with you guys. It's 19 hours. I'm going to go watch the news. Oh, don't you pay him no never mind. Given Lorinda is hallucinating. Brother doesn't even know what the hell's going on. He thinks he knows what's going on, but he doesn't know what's happening. All right. Stacy B, I see you. Good night.